So I'm happy to welcome all of you to our first month of Being DesignOps event. So here I would like to start with introducing our speakers. Pat, would you like to go first and introduce yourself to the community?
Absolutely. Thank you, Farid. And thank you for having me. So I'm Pat. I am Associate Director of Design Operations at which is a health tech company in UK and the US. And I'm setting up my third design ops practice. So I can speak for at least 3 different approaches and attempts to set up a practice. So excited to share the learnings that I did through the iterations.
Thank you. Really exciting. Z, would you like to go next?
Of course. Hi, everyone. Hello. Thanks for having me here, Farid. And this is one of my favorite communities here talking about design ops and to see a lot of familiar faces and the new faces. So I'm Z. I run the design operations at Cloudflare. I'm actually, in terms of title, I'm actually the principal design ops manager. And I can talk a lot about being design ops team of one. And today I'm going to really talk about the differences for your first 30 days, whether you are transitioned from within the company or actually hired from outside the company, what you do for the first 30 days. So really excited to be here. And
Great.
back to you.
Thank you. Kristen, would you like to share
Yeah, happy
your
to. Hi,
story?
all. I'm Kristen Ingels, she, her, hers. I'm based in the Bay Area. I am a senior design program manager at Zillow. I joined in April, and so onboarding is still fresh in my mind and excited to have this conversation today. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you. Barbara, would you like to go next?
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Barbara. Thanks for having me and for opening the space for us to discuss this exciting stuff. I'm also joining my second team as design operations. I have been part of a team of one in my previous company, and now I just joined Adidas 6 months ago. So I also have fresh in my mind all the onboarding and the starting over, especially in a big complex company. And at Adidas, we also have a little bit of a bigger team. So now we are 4. So I could also share a little bit more on how do we share our tasks and share a little bit of our experience there.
Great, thank you. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Mark Figueiredo. I currently am a design ops manager, but team of one at T. Rowe Price. I'm kind of Z's use case. I have started inside of the design space, moved into design leadership, and then hired internally with the first design operations role at T. Rowe Price. So a lot of the things that I can share with you are around, getting ready to move into that role. And then once you do, you have all those amazing ideas and all those artifacts you've collected as you've pursued this, how to go ahead and simplify that and understand what you want to do in your first 30 days to then set yourself up for success for the rest of the year and the future. So excited to be here. My first Friends of Figma event. So thanks so much for having me.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and my name is Farid Sabitov. I'm Figma DesignOps Community Advocate. So happy to be here and happy to connect all of you. And the goal of our open panel discussion is show how your first month of being a DesignOps could look like. So we can speak about all our previous experience and maybe to come up with the ideal scenario, the ideal plan of first 30 days of being a DesignOps together with all the experts here. And hopefully we'll be able to come up with the interesting and practical guidance around that. So, as I mentioned before, we have a secret board for speakers only. So we will pull some of the information here from another board to here when our experts will share their stories. So right now it's empty. As a result, we will have more materials here. And at the same time, experts and listeners, please, if you feel like that you heard something interesting, please add, will be our final deliverable. Please add in your perspective, the ideal scenario, the ideal 30 days plan for DesignOps here. Which kind of activities do we need to perform? Which kind of ceremonies we would like to conduct? And which kind of deliverables we can show on the first day of being a DesignOps? Great. So I would like to pass the mic to Kristen. Kristen, would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you so much, Farid. So I will kick us off and share some very, very practical tips. I've broken down what I would consider the top 30 to 60 days in 5 steps, and I will walk you all through there. Over on the right, you can see I have some resources and inspiration, just things that I will reference and that you can look at, in today's discussion, but also keep it for the future. Maybe a little bit of context before I jump in. So I joined Zillow as a new hire. I joined in April of last year, and so I've been here almost a year. The DesignOps team had been around for about a year when I joined, so really new, and the team that I was supporting had never had design operations before. And so a lot of what I was doing was evangelizing and defining what my role is and what the priorities would be. I operate primarily as a IC, individual contributor, at a portfolio level. So I think about like portfolio, program, and project. Most of my work is building workflows and frameworks that is going to work across a broader team, less so about specific deliverables and ship dates and that sort of thing. Farid, do you want me to share my?
Yeah, I'm following your cursor. Let me do that one more time. Do you want to share any other? Yeah.
Okay. I guess I don't need to share my screen. Everyone's on the FigJam. So, and I'm embedded within a product team, one primary product team. And again, they really had not had design operations before. So 5 steps, these are more or less all modeled after the double diamond, which I think many of you are probably familiar. I think that is a great resource, and it's something that resonates with a lot of designers. And so I try and break down a lot of my design operations activities in language and frameworks that other designers are going to be familiar with. So step 1 is a little bit just for fun, but I think it's something that you should acknowledge. It's really just taking a moment to say like, hey, I belong here, and congrats because you made it through the interviews. And I hope that the team that, is onboarding with you, they welcome you and they make you feel a part of the team. But, often, I can speak from my experience, like sometimes we do have imposter syndrome, and I have to remind myself, like, I belong here. I got through the interviews, and, this is new territory, but it's exciting. I feel like a lot of what design operations at the core, it's a relationship business and function. And so I feel like the first step is really to begin to learn the people, and then you can focus on your actual role. And so in my first week, I was thinking about, how can I be successful? Like, what do I need to do to set up my computer and my space and kind of the systems that I want to work? Also looking at some of the business objectives and strategies and looking at all of those background documents just to understand kind of what people are going to be keeping their eye on and what KPIs I should keep in mind. I believe in doing something that I call a leap with your boss or any mentors or your key partners. So I met with my design director, who I work really closely with, and a leap is really like a get to know you one-on-one. You don't focus on work. It's really about how you connect as a person. And so like, what are your pet peeves? What do you want to get out of this role? What are the goals that you have personally? What do you do in your free time? Really connecting as a person to kind of build that foundation of the relationship. And from there, I think you can start to build your goals 30, 60, 90, and then I'll get into kind of the next steps. So step 2 is a listening tour. I think we probably will all talk about listening tours. And if you take away one thing, I think that is the most important thing from this session. I feel like if nothing else in 30 days, you could just talk to people. And really the expectation is that you may not execute on a lot, and that's perfectly okay. So the goals here are building relationships and trust. You begin to assess the team and the culture, really understanding the strengths and the opportunity areas where there are, pain points for the team. I also spent a lot of time trying to find out who my ops counterparts were. So whether that be like formally, like if you have product ops or TPMs or business operations, they all are similar minded, and they all have kind of context to the company that can be really helpful. Even if someone doesn't have an operations title, I think that we probably all know that there are some people who are more ops minded and some who may shy away from operations. And so find those people who like process and who can be your champions and who will help inform some of your later on pilots that you'll launch. The other thing I would just mention here is just begin to educate people for design ops. So as I mentioned, at Zillow, design operations was relatively new. And so I kind of prepared my elevator pitch, and I had documentation of what I believe is really what I believe design operations is, so that people had context. Okay, moving along to step 3, this is where you begin to do some synthesis. And so this may look like conducting some mapping or developing some initial themes. I put together notes for all of all of the listening sessions that I did, I asked everyone very similar questions, probably for the first 10 people that I spoke to. And then as I got further into the conversations, like when I spoke to probably, I don't know, 10 to people like 10 to 30, I started to hone in on some of the themes that I was already getting a sense of, because I think very quickly you'll start to get a sense of what are those pain points and what are the strengths, and so you can dig deeper. I then put that all on a mural board or a FigJam board and themed them, and then worked with my design director to identify somehow and get their ideas to start to brainstorm some of the things that we could do together. I also put together a discovery report, and I think this is optional, but I have found that it's been really helpful. I come from a consulting agency, and so I think a lot in kind of like reports and deliverables. And I put together a deck that, that I shared with everyone that I spoke to, and I presented just kind of virtually and then shared the recording with everyone. And in that presentation, I had like 10 insights that I had and kind of set the context of what I did and who I spoke to. And then once I had an initial roadmap, I also put that in that same deck. And so all of that just lived there. And it's been super helpful as other people have onboarded to the team, because I can just point them back to that and say, hey, I spoke to everyone in April. This is what I learned. This is what we're working on. These are pain points that you may encounter. Honestly, I think that will probably get you through month 1. And I think what I have in step 4 and step 5 are really important, but I think that it will take more than 30 days. You may start to get some, in that step 4, you may start to ideate, you may try and do some small pilots. And I think my advice is to identify like the really kind of low hanging fruit of like, hey, I saw this is a really big gap, and like, hey, I've already taken a stab at fixing it, and begin to kind of show that you're capable of this, and show what you're going to be able to bring to the team. Those quick wins can be really effective in getting people to understand what DesignOps is and to champion your work. And then, from there, you feedback, you repeat, and you kind of start all over. You get feedback from people based on ideas that you have. You share some initial designs and drafts of frameworks that you have, and you roll it out to a small group. I usually like to do a pilot first and then launch it, and then get feedback and then launch it further to a broader group if it works. And I think the biggest thing in both step 4 and step 5 is that so much of what we do is based on the relationships that we established at the beginning. So a lot of it is like planning and communications and negotiation. I really believe that design operations has a lot of what we do is change management. And a lot of that is just keeping people in touch with like expectations and how things may change. So making sure that you're communicating and keeping them up to speed.
Great. Thank you very much, Kristen, for sharing a lot of interesting materials here. And you also added a lot of resources and inspiration on the right side, right?
Yep.
Great. Yeah. Would you like to go next and share your story?
Of course. I just copied my visuals underneath Christian's visual, and you will see my double diamond. This is the UK Design Council's double diamond. It's extremely helpful for us think about design practice, to think about design operations. So you will see really the first 30 days, similar to what Christian said, that you're not really going to be able to get through this double diamond, the 2 diamonds. So we are very lucky can get through the first diamond in a way. I was hired externally as well, so a lot of things Kristen mentioned that applies for everything I did. But I want to talk a little bit about below the double diamond about the listening tour part. A lot of time we think about, we want to find out what is challenging our team is facing. So for me, I want to focus on this first part about building trust when you go out to do your listening tour. When we hired externally, our immediate reactions really prove ourselves. I can do things. I was hired to do things. I need to prove, really to show people. But we need to curb that urge. The most important thing is really to find out who are the people we're working with. And I'm a big fan of Kim Scott's radical candor. So think about that. Care personally, challenge directly. Even that was framed for a lot of things we work in the space for design ops is really working with people. The care personally part is essential for design operations. before I even find out what is the team's challenge, what I need to work to help our team, the most important thing for me, I believe, is really getting to know these people. Just know their working environment, especially now they're working from home, how we show up at work. It's really a lot of things around us, the environment have impacted. That actually influence what kind of challenge our individuals are facing. So I couldn't stress more about the importance about getting to know the people. Of course, then when this is our listening tour, right? There are a lot of questions we need to ask, to talk to the ICs, to talk with leadership, to talk with the cross-functional teams, similar to Kristen mentioned that, talk about, is there similar groups within the company? Is there a TPM group, DevOps group, and there are a lot of similarities. And with that kind of knowledge, I can actually move into the defining the role. The reason I want to mention about the first 30 days, you want to define the role. This is coming from outside, hiring from outside. Many times, design ops, you're the design ops of one. Even for a larger company, Kristen's a design ops team of 4, still small group of people. When you hire in, how you position yourself matters. It impacts how you move forward, what kind of work you will be doing. I was very fortunately, I believe that if you are the team of positioned as the partner, strategic partner to your design leader, whether that's a VP of a design, head of a design, whoever that person is. But sometimes it doesn't happen that way. So you may be, Mark probably can mention a lot of more transitioning from an IC role into a design ops leadership role. And you want to find out what is your role and the responsibility. That will define how you move forward, and communicate that clearly out to the team, to your leadership, to teams within the design community, to the teams within the company. Then you can, that's pretty much, it's going to take your first 30 days. And then if you have more time, you can start to think about really prioritize work and think about what you would be doing the next 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months, right? Or the next year. And that get into setting up the roadmap part. I know Pat is a really big measure of success. How do we measure design ops success? This is a framework I use for myself, and to think about how design ops maps to the business goal. Everything I do, ideally, if I go out, advocate for design, it's not just about helping designers. That's something design ops practitioners understand. But important thing is really to advocate about the design, about design operations, how that maps to business goals. How do I measure success? Everything I do, and does it improve the design efficiency? Does it save money for business? All these, how to map to the business. It's something will help me to tell my story later on, set me for success later on, and then set me for success to build up the design ops team. I was a design ops team of 1 for the longest time, and then how do you actually advocate to grow design ops in ratio to the design practice growth? That's really important. I'm sure Pat has a lot of frameworks and practice advice in how to set up, how to measure design ops success. I'll leave her to talk more about that, but this is something I want to mention. The first 30 days, definitely no need to show what you can do. It's really important to identify what you need to do moving forward. So that's my little speech about the first 30 days.
Thank you. Really exciting. Yeah. Dear speakers, if you want to add something, please add.
Blushing because I'm a big fan of Z's work. But I think that I'm pretty much aligned with what Z and Kristen are saying. But I would probably focus on something more, because I see design ops as a very systemic approach. For me, it's critical that we look at not just the immediate partners, but the core partners that actually can influence and support. Design operations, it's all about problem solving, right? And problems come in every shape and form. So our role is a clear map of who are the allies that actually can help us to do our job in the most effective and efficient way. So as Kirsten was saying, it's all about relationships. So I kind of set a map of how I divide and what is the kind of stakeholders map, kind of onion type I utilize, because of course the design team is central. I mean, if you look The way I organize my work, it's around the business operation, the workflow, and the design operations and the people operations. So all we do is to serve our business, our team, our designers, but then to be able to serve them properly, we need product teams, PMs, POs, the engineers. We always have issues and we always need to focus on career growth and progression. So HR become critical. IT, procurement, finance, marketing, sales, the senior leadership, legal, these issues. So for me, a good chunk of my first 30 days is spent literally doing a 360 assessment. So I kind of highlighted the big things, and it's true. I start measuring everything because I need to have a baseline of where we are. So I start, of course, with the team. So hey, what is happening? Who are the people? I run surveys. I look at tool analytics to see what are people using to work, because one thing is what they say, another thing is what they do. I started 3 practices, once as an internal move and twice as an external. No matter what, check the data, understand how people are utilizing, how much work time are wasting, what is the team health, cross data with analytics, with finance, how we are spending. And then what is really important for me, it's not just what's the inside out view, what is happening in design and how they feel about design, but how the rest of the organization thinks and feels about design. Because design should be the force of change. It should shake the org and bring the user within. But if the design team is not set up to communicate and engage, it's all lost. And I also spend a lot of time with budget and finance, because knowing the headcount, knowing how we spend becomes really, really important when we want to drive change. Because I can tell you, I set up 2 practices with yeah. Now, in the first one, in 4 months, I saved $200,000. Now, not because I'm magic, but just because financial inefficiencies are so. And you know what could I do? I could just go and say, hey, I want to organize a social event for the team. Finance can tell me no, because, hey, are you really saying no to $10,000 when I save 200,000? So I find extremely tactical to own that beat. And in the second case, I saved $150,000, of course. So making sure that within the first month, we have a good grade of the organization and we treat design as a cross-functional function. And we set all those important relationships with all this. For me, it's important. And then, yes, I mean, I can't add anything more than what has been already said. A report, as it has been said, it's knowledge management, it's change management, which means not only having a report, but playing it back, having the buy-in. Because once you have finished this 360 assessment and you have a roadmap and the priorities, I mean, we are not working in isolation. We need to have the buy-in from the design leader, the design leadership, the designers, and then probe and test and make sure that everyone agrees that what you have seen with an external lens is what they're experiencing, and you interpret reality in a way that actually makes sense and drives that collaborative effort and drives that change and those efficiencies on all levels. So absolutely, yes. I mean, I probably just added more color and more emphasis on things that I find help me to take what Z was saying, position my role at a high strategic level. I'm not talking to necessarily just my operation. I go and talk to the C-level because I need their buy-in. If I need to talk and be best friends with the privacy counselor and the legal counselor, because, hey, when research messes up things, they're the one helping me. So that will help you to elevate your role and position yourself as a leader rather than just someone that is executing a roadmap.
Great, thank you. I believe that it's a good transition for us to switch to Mark and hear his story about like starting in DesignOps in his organization. Mark,
Yeah,
would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll pop my stuff right down below where we just were. A lot of these things are things that I had and started putting together before I was even officially in my role. So I'll just give a little bit of a background. It was around 2017 when I was starting to understand what I was starting to move into. And I was just doing like general Google searches on like, what do you call a UX designer that loves process and team building? And going through there, and then names started to pop up. I called Dave Malouf like the grandfather of DesignOps, but that's just because he was the first person to introduce that to me. He then introduced me to the DesignOps Summit, where actually a lot of people who are in the chat, I'm noticing, I was sitting in the crowd listening to them. So for about 4 years, I was starting to build out what I thought and knew in my heart that I needed to do. As many people start, you realize that you're already doing a lot of these things in your today, but you're usually doing them aside of desk. And I think one of the biggest things that design operations brings to the table is doing this full time. So one of the first things I did way early on was actually take the thing I learned. I think it was the first presentation at the first DesignOps conference was Brennan Harchick talking about menu and really breaking down what it is DesignOps means for you, because every business is different. So I took that immediately right after that day, went into my hotel room and just started jotting these things out and saying, what is it that I could do in my day today and what does that look like? Because going back, I knew that I had to communicate back to my teams what it is that I wanted to do. And like I said, this wasn't an overnight success. It was about 4 years of beating people over the head, hanging up the sketch notes from the ops conference around the office and just talking about it until they were sick of it. And then I got really lucky. And I hope that everyone can be as lucky as I am in having a really strong design leader who values design operations and realized that they needed something. So the things I'm sharing here are really just what I put together up front before I even moved into roles, but I'm able to reuse over and over. So I would say the ops menu is the great first thing to have because you can really communicate that. Then I broke it down into areas of focus that I could actually affect right now. And these were like those immediate, not necessarily quick hits, because these do take time, but things that I know that I could impact immediately. And for the teams that I were on, there was a lot of things that I knew that I could do around team organization and just understanding what their problems were and then how I could help solve them with some focus, really focusing in on what we needed. So in a similar fashion to those listening tours we talked about, talking with the teams that you're working for. I have a background in UX design. I did that for years before I moved in here. And what I always tell people is that design ops is user experience for the designers versus for our end user. Right? But we are actually still supporting our end user because we're making the people that do that great work happy and do great work, and happy people continue to do good work, hopefully. So I've been able to break that down a bit here and move into real areas of focus. And so I broke them down into 3 main areas. The team space, because we needed that. Organization was not great, and I knew I could focus on that and make that happen. We really needed to focus as a company around standardization, around a tool set and a tool stack. So I knew I could definitely take that on. And then new hiring, onboarding. It had been really bad. It was actually the basis of my thesis around moving into an ops role, and kind of my ask was explaining my not great first time being onboarded into a company and how I knew that I could change that. The big part, and we've talked about it, Kristen mentioned it, and Pat mentioned it too, you have to be able to communicate what it is you want to do, not just talk about it from a standpoint of, hey, I think I could do this, but actually get it down. So I found this to be a really valuable piece around that. So next, I'm going to move over to the prioritize ops list and validating that. So again, I mentioned before, I was very, very lucky that I was able to move into a team that already was doing a lot of this work, but they were doing it completely side of desk. And sometimes it was very like bottom drawer side of desk, because they already had so much work that they had to do. And so a lot of this, I explained it to the team when I came in, it was a survival tactic. They weren't able to officially spend as much time as they wanted to on this. So they had to find quick ways to do this. And so my boss coming in, she had a list of like 60 items. She said, here are all of the things, Mark, I've just been collecting over the years. Let's talk through these. And so she and I met And we prioritized these and said, okay, what are the big things that we need to try to accomplish? And then kind of broke them down a little bit. And she and I were just speaking yesterday around this year's goals and objectives and what we want to do. And I was telling her, I come back to this list often. If I kind of have a little bit of a slow week or I'm waiting on something, I go down to my low priority items and I'll just pluck something out of there, because sometimes there are really nice, easy things that we can do quickly. But I'd say the big part of this is that we prioritize this together. This wasn't what I thought we needed to do. This is what we thought together, along with the team's input of having this going. And this is a continuous list that we will always add to. And I can also keep track of it for myself and start to put a little bit of time and notes behind those things, which is really great. The next thing that's over here, and this is well beyond your first 30 days, but this was a big thing for us, is that my team did not have any type of large level roadmap or kind of a program view. So I spent my first 30 days immersing myself in Airtable and learning everything. I don't even know all of the things, but as much as I could to understand how I could pull this together. So I would say in the first 30 days, I also just absorbed. I had so many spreadsheets of roadmaps. I actually got a roadmap from someone on a piece of paper that they took a picture of and sent it to me. Like, this was the level of individual sometimes that we were dealing with, and just, it was stream of conscious. And so my goal is to take all of those stream of conscious, put them together in something so we can just take a look at the program across the board. As I mentioned, I have a background in design, so program management is not necessarily my forte, but it is an area that I know I want to grow in. And so I've been dabbling. So could this be done better? Absolutely. Will I continue to build on this? 100%. But this is something I was able to pull together relatively quickly with a lot of inputs. And one thing I'll just end with here is we talk about, having the DesignOps team of one very often. And something that I've really been thinking about lately is that while you might be an official title role team of one, like, you really have a humongous team, right? Because similar to what Pat mentioned and Z mentioned and Kristen do, you have to reach out to these other individuals because you really can't do it all. It's physically and mentally impossible. So, figure out who your extended team is as you are trying to grow your team or starting to build the pillars for that, and really start to rely on them. On the design team myself, I have a few individuals who absolutely love ops, but they also love UX research and US design. And so I'm actually able to bring them into a lot of my projects as well, because they're passionate about it. We're currently setting up a repository for all of our research for our business partners. And I have a team member on my team who absolutely loves setting up SharePoint sites. And so she and I are working together. So it's not just me doing all of the work. I'm helping to plan and understand what we need to accomplish, but then also working with other team members who are passionate about this as well and can help out, when I say, like, hey, you're not busy doing these things, you want to help me out here. So I just want to say that, as well as that even though you might not be in a full-time role, you can still practice it. And even if you are a team of one, really rely on kind of your extended team to also accomplish the things that you want. And the last thing I would say really is also going into and kind of going back to that priority list we talked about. You probably have so much in your head of things that you want to do and things you want to accomplish. I know I came in, I was like, all right, I need to pull in everything I've gathered over the years. I want our, let's have workshops and let's do this. And I want to pull these things apart. But then I was like, well, the team is far too busy right now, focusing on what we need to deliver to just grab them away from that. So even for myself, I've had to prioritize all those fun things that I want to do as well, and slowly kind of cascade them out to the team. You have time. Someone has trusted you in this role. They believe in you. That imposter syndrome hopefully kind of goes away a little bit, or you can kind of peek through it every now and again and find time to kind of share more of what you know and love with your teams. And a lot of those things that you want to do all will come in due time, but really focus on what your team needs, because again, they are your user. You are not your own user all the time. So it's just really important to make sure that you prioritize that, but also make yourself happy too. It's finding that balance. I think that's really important.
Thank you for sharing. Great stuff. And thank you for sharing the previews, some of the things like practical things. I believe a lot of people will be inspired around how to use Airtable or any other tools to visualize and connect people all together.
I'm going to just add one point about the Airtable, all the tools you're showing, Mark. That's really fascinating because a lot of people reach out to us, say, hey, I'm a designer, I'm considering transitioning to the all, but should I? And what it entails. And here's one really perfect picture. It's like my work tools are no longer Figmas and everything. It's a more spreadsheet and the Airtables, and really the tools change, the space is changing. So that's really interesting, I thought.
Yeah, there's 1,000 tools to do the same thing. I think it's funny the ones you have access to. In our case, like I said, I'm in fintech, so things get really locked down. So I have to just kind of pick my battles and make it, I got to be, a little scrappy sometimes. But I love that because I'm still able to kind of accomplish the goal, just maybe not in the most efficient way as possible. Airtable is a great example. I love what I'm doing there, but I don't think this is the right tool to continue to build out our roadmaps and our entire program view because it can only do so much and it's very manual. So I'm always looking for new opportunities and new tools. So next time I talk or we share, if I get invited back, I'll probably have something totally different.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Barbara, would you like to go next and share maybe your thoughts on the things that people shared?
Sure. Yes. So from my perspective or my experience, I had two experiences. So my first experience was starting a team of one, and I was in a company already. So I just transitioned from the brand marketing to product side. And there I had to start from zero. So what I've done is also like getting to know who were my team, because of course I already had some knowledge with the other departments, but it's still like, what are departments that this team needs to connect. So for me, it was gathering this overview, as I mentioned before, like of what are the teams that we need to connect, what do we have. And I created like a spreadsheet because we love spreadsheets for the team. And I used a lot of what is mentioned on, back in the days, I used a lot of the NN group, like what they have for design. So I created like some sort of questionnaire as well per team. And I interview every single team member, because I also wanted to understand, as it was already a big team, I wanted to understand what are the struggles, what are the things that were working, what they were missing, like all this, create this big picture of the team itself. And I also added here like a team canvas that can be used, like to understand what are their expectations, because I think it's so important to also understand what the team expects from you. It is a new role, so people still don't know what to expect. Some people expect a lot. So it's good to also narrow down and create some boundaries and say like, look, this is my role. This is what we can achieve together. This is outside of my scope. So this is one thing that I think was very valuable in the first month. And having the time to spend with people, especially during Corona times, is so hard to create this connection. So have a coffee and just say like, oh, how are you doing? How is your life? What would you like to do? Oh, you have a bike on your wall. Why do you have that? So this is like such a good thing to do, because you create this connection with people, and that's very important. Yeah, so I think that was like for me a big part in my previous company. And now at Adidas, when I started, I was very lucky as well that my team was already, and at Adidas we are split in three pillars. So we have the business ops, people ops, and workflow ops. I'm responsible for workflows. So my role was a little bit more like shaped, but it's still like there was a lot of great that we needed to discuss. So I had to interview, like, of course, my teammates, but also like the other teams, understand what it was like to when or where my role would go, and not overlap with I don't know, with people ops, for example. So how we could collaborate better on that sense. One thing that I've done, so I also created some sort of canvas for me to understand the teams that I was working, like what would they were doing, like what is the team itself, what are the goals, what are their needs, how we can collaborate. And I especially love to understand people's struggles, like what is not working, like can I collect this all in one team, can I find some solution for that. So I really like to deep dive on the struggles of the teams or people's daily lives. And after all this collection of interviews and everything, I used the SWOT method, like very simple, like the strengths, what are the weaknesses of my team, all the opportunities that I have seen on all these interviews, are there any threads that we can already like think about it. So I think that was very valuable for me. And based on that, what I've done is I created like a vision of myself. Okay, these are the themes, or these are the values that I want to implement in my role, and I want to advocate in the next, I don't know, 6 months, or depending, what are your goals for the next quarters. And yeah, and I think we were mentioning what kind of like rituals we can do. One thing that was very valuable for me on the first months, and I was lucky that I started like right after the end of the quarter. It was on the retro. You can also get a lot of like insights of how things are going and where are the topics that you can pick up. So that was very valuable for me. Analyzing the surveys. So at Adidas, we had a lot of in place, so I could get that and then understand what are the things that are coming from a long time, what is a new problem, what are that I can, and yeah, and I think also I was super lucky that I had already some prioritized tasks. So I was doing at the same time all these interviews, trying to understand all the complexity of a big company, but at the same time I already had my projects, so I could focus on those and already collect information from this. But at the same time, I was always looking like, okay, what are the other teams? What are the other people that probably I'll connect in the future? Can I connect with them now? Just grab a coffee, 15 minutes, like no work related. Let's try to get to know each other before jumping into work. Like, I need you right now. Let's do it. So I think it's important, this collaboration. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to add on there, Barbara, that I agree with that last point you just made. It's not always business. Like, networking is really important, but it doesn't have to just be work networking constantly. Just getting to know people on a personal level is so key. And especially if you have a decentralized team, or if you're a remote organization, I think just spending that time, just getting to know people, and like you said, not even talking about work, builds such a strong relationship. It's more than just come to work, punch in, punch out. And a lot of that's extremely beneficial when you go in to try to sell in or ask for something. Having a friend in a good place is sometimes better than just knowing the person who's in that, just at that C-suite. Having a personal relationship is super beneficial.
Yeah, 100%.
Agree. Great. So let me share some of the things that I have as well. So here I would suggest to start maybe also educating people around DesignOps. So that's why I added some of the materials here that might be useful for you, just to cover what are the focus areas of DesignOps and where exactly right now you are focusing on. And when you have a call with your leadership team or executive, you could validate some of the things that, okay, what kind of things we would like to focus on right now, because DesignOps is so broad, right? And we have tons of things. Share your approach and explain the way how you work, so people will able to understand where exactly they could contribute, where exactly they could see some of the results. Also at the bottom, I added a lot of material, so you can watch some of the things that we already discussed. I really like the way how Michelle presented the org chart and how DesignOps is integrated within that. So it will be great on your first call with your manager, with VP of design or other people, to discuss where exactly like you will be focusing on the program level, on the whole organization level, or in the specific team as like research ops, or as a part of design system, or as a part of other product related things. I also shared some of my DesignOps principles that I'm always sharing, but you can find more materials here as well. I believe it's a good way to start thinking about your DesignOps principles and making sure that like it aligns with the culture inside the organization. And for sure, DesignOps Toolset. By the way, I'm a fan of Coda instead of Airtable and Notion. Coda is not promoted a lot. They are not investing in marketing, but if you are thinking about scaling the knowledge management tools, Coda is much more affordable, because to buy license, you don't need to pay for editors. You can pay only for the doc creation. Here at the bottom, we would like to share some of the things. We discussed that a lot, and I believe we can all agree that it's important to create a communication plan. So I really like to start with the org chart, visualizing all the people who are like working inside the organization, and visualizing all your partners. Are you connecting only with design, or it's better to connect also with other departments like engineering or product? So that's why by visualizing the org chart, by understanding what kind of roles and what kind of departments some specific people are a part of, you could visualize your communication plan. And what I like to do is just to visualize 2 weeks and visualizing all the one-on-one sessions with different people that I'm running. Again, you can also map the scholars with the different types of disciplines that people are part of. You can also group them based on the leadership, management, individual contributors, or partners. Partners, not as a part of design department, but as a part of engineering or any other or marketing departments. Again, this view will help you to understand if you covered all the main people, and also making sure that it's not only about one-on-one sessions, but it's mostly about the way how you are capturing all the notes and all the pain problems, all the things that you are hearing. Also, what I believe is that I really like the way how Pat mentioned that design ops is management. So, and as other speakers mentioned that some of the teams already might have some interesting operation related initiatives. So the role of responsibility of design ops that I believe is that connecting people on specific initiative groups. So that some of the things that one team is doing already, three doing the same thing. They are trying to reorganize Miro, or they are trying to create a research database, or they would like to create something new or change the Jira structure or something else. So it's again, one of the responsibilities of design ops is trying to understand and see all these initiatives that are happening, operation related initiatives, and start connecting people. Yeah, I like to use Miro for that purposes, where you could create cards and connect them. It's also important to help different teams to be connected and understand what kind of dependencies, plan the work, understand when exactly some of the things we could see. You could also structure things based on different focus areas. And here on the right side, you will be able to find a template that I'm using that I like, is also mentioning not only the initiative, but also some of the resources that they are working on, or the team who is responsible for making deliverables, or who is accountable for the overall. And here at the bottom, just quick things here, we have 7 minutes left, is as we all agree, I believe that it's important not only to do the interviews, but it's also important to hear people. So what I'm doing is that, like, you can create Coda or Airtable or Notion, or a table in Confluence, where you could start capturing all the pain points or ideas or comments that people are sharing during these one-on-one sessions, and you can tag that with specific activities. So I'm really excited, like, I really like the way how Spotify is created this like customer journey map, but only for this, like for the designer journey, how we are doing the onboarding, how we are doing the hiring, how we are doing the promotions and other things, and map all these highlights, all these pain points that people are sharing with different activities. So that will give you a sense of, again, you are connecting people around initiative, and you are connecting people around problems and around hypotheses that how you would like to solve all of these problems. You can also find some of the interesting materials here around team compositions. It's important to visualize, like, design department, right? How many design teams there are, who is the main contact point, who is the design program manager in this specific program, or any other levels. So it's important to visualize all these things, org chart, but also the team compositions, how they are all connected around specific problem area or specific product or specific capability. And what I really like is that it's important to think about and be connected with the operations stream, be more connected with the DevOps, research ops, product ops, people ops, and work together, because we're all doing the same thing, just through the different lenses, like from design lenses, through this development, engineering, but we are all trying to do the same things. And the last thing that I want to share is, like, I really like to visualize the current products map. It will give you a sense of like how many, like, and one of the examples here is Meta. Which portfolios do you have? Who is responsible for specific portfolio? How many products do you have? And what kind of initiatives are there are right now are active that people are focused on. So these kind of foundational deliverables will help you to understand the context, understand the problems, connect people around specific initiatives, and visualize the way how the whole organization is working. And plan workshops, but this is a part of the next 30 days, I believe. Great, so we have 5 minutes left. One of the goals that we had before is that to visualize the final plan of how first month could look like, the ideal month could look like. I believe we will take that offline, and we will do that, online, and we will do that asynchronously. And then when the session recording will be ready, we will share this template with you as well. But before that, I wanted to we will align internally with all our experts just to make sure that we covered everything. But I really love everything that people shared. Thank you very much. Dear experts, dear speakers, would you like to share some of your final thoughts here?
Let's have fun. Design operations is all about making teams happy, business happy. Designers do great products that make customers and the business happy. So I keep saying when I make a joke to my teams, I'm in the business of happiness. Design ops, it's all about making people happy. So let's start being happy ourselves and enjoying what we do.
Nice. Yeah. So here's the thing. A lot of us are design ops team of one or team of a few, a handful. And one thing I find a lot of a comfort is we have these kind of community for design ops. It's a new practice, labeled practice. Even we've been doing this for a long time, but as a practice, a discipline, this is new. But there are some great design ops community, and we're trying to figure things out as we grow this practice. I think that is really good to have, and I encourage everyone just participate in all these communities. This is where I meet my peers, met all of you, and learn a lot from everyone as well.
Yeah, it was actually
Can be unpopular, sorry, and just say one unpopular thing. It's not about the books, but as Z said, it's about the community. Books are old. Think about every book you read has been thought through 2 years ago. So go in the community, go on Medium, go on LinkedIn, find your space, join Slack. That's where we learn, and we all learn together because it's all new. So sorry, Mike.
No, you're absolutely fine. I was just gonna piggyback on all of that and say the network is incredible, the community is incredible, and I've never asked a question and been told by someone in this community like that's mine. We love to share, we love to talk about it and help other people be successful. It's kind of, I think, why a lot of us move into ops, to your point, Pat. Like we want to help and make other people happy. So if you are coming across a problem and you're not sure how to solve it, even if you're early on, I have done it so many times and I'm so grateful. Ask the question, someone has been through it, or if not, we'll help you brainstorm through how you might be able to solve that and better understand your situation. So just really rely on that community because it's key.
Great. Thank you very much for being a part of this event. I'm really excited, and I believe we will be able to create some interesting deliverable for others that will be helpful for them and that will help them to speed up their things. And again, we are trying to standardize the way how we work. It's not only about standardizing the way how our designers are working, but this is also about us as operations. So let's do that. Let's share with the community. Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure to speak with all of you. We will share the recording and we'll share the FigJam file, and we will try to share the template that will be aligned across all these experts that was a part of this call. And thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you so much for
Thanks for
hosting.
having
See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.